Okay, just want to move my screen out as well. So this is part of the Getting Started, SolidWorks Getting Started and Certification webinar series that we're hosting. And it's presented weekly by myself, Pierre Legrancy and Evan van der Berg. You'll notice that I'm the host as Quentin Berger, but as some of you know, Quentin is our manager for the early engagement group, and myself and Evan, we are part of the team helping all the universities, the entrepreneurs, incubators, and so on in South Africa, making sure that everyone is up and running. And we're really excited. It's almost time for the newer version of the 2021 SolidWorks, and we want to make sure that you all have the basics ready now. And then when we get to the new version that might be in the next few weeks, we can get you all started on the latest version. So just a little bit of background. I am Pierre Legrancy on the right-hand side. I'm an application engineer with a mechanical engineering degree through the University of Pretoria, and I've been with MECAD now for 4 years. And then Evan is also part of our team. He is also an application engineer, mechanical engineer, and we all came through the university. So we know the struggles that universities have, we know the questions, but we want to make sure that you all will have the correct information to get you started in SolidWorks. Make sure you have the serial numbers, make sure you know where to get the training files on My SolidWorks and the tutorials and so on. So
yeah, again, just check your
questions.
Not sharing your desktop there.
Okay, let me just make sure about that. I am on a share. Just check, Evan, please, if you can give me some feedback just to make sure that it is actually sharing.
Let's just see here.
Sorry about that. We just want to make sure that everyone can see my screen.
Now, you guys, if you can see the screen, just type it in the chat box, please.
Okay, I can see your screen. Okay, thanks, Berlin. Okay, maybe Evan, maybe you're not seeing my screen.
Yeah, I think it's maybe just something on my side. I think let's continue and then. Ah, okay. There we go. Yeah. I found it. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, like we said, is like we just want to make sure that everyone is ready for the new version when we send out the new serial numbers, that you're all ready with installation files. So this webinar series that we use is to touch base with all of the universities again, and then to go and make the changes and make sure that everyone is ready. Okay, so just our agenda for today is we are just going to go and look at the specific certifications that are available through the university. And then we're going to look at the SolidWorks interface. There was quite a few questions with regards to the interface and what we can actually do if, let's say, we can't find the weldments or we can't find the sheet metal. Where can we add the tabs? Where can we add the different add-ins like simulation, flow simulation, and so on. And then we're just going to do a small getting started again show with tutorials. For today, we're just going to look at a quick tutorial on a sheet metal. How do I create a base flange with an edge? How can I flatten that? And how can I make a drawing of that flat pattern? And then we'll just end off with the questions at the end of the series. So I'm going to hand over to Evan now. He will share his screen. Okay. Evan, you can share your screen now. Okay, let's just wait for him. There's his screen. Perfect. Evan, just make sure you're muted.
Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay. So I just wanted to go through some of the certifications you guys have available to you. Now, we've talked a lot about the CSWA certification in the past webinar, but there's a lot of additional certifications available to you. Now, most of you will have to start off with a CSWA. Once you've done that, all of the other certifications will open up to you. So you can do any of the CSWAs. Sorry about that. Let me go back. Okay. So you can do things like the CSWA simulation or the additive manufacturing. So that's for 3D printing. But once you've done the base CSWA mechanical design, all of these CSWP certifications open up for you. So some of you have asked us about the CSWP. So to get the voucher codes is the same as the CSWA. Your lecturer provides a voucher code for you. And once you have that, you can write the exam. Now, the CSWP is special in that it can be split into 3 parts because it's quite a lengthy exam. So it's 3 or 3.5 hours. And if you do it as 3 parts, each one is about an hour to an hour and a half. Now, obviously, there's additional ones, such as the CSWP for simulation, some for sheet metal surfacing, mold making. These are all really good certifications to do. And if you guys just go to the SolidWorks website to certifications, you'll see there's a specific section on the academic certifications. And here you'll see a short description of what each one involves. You can click on them and then just go into and seeing what the basic breakdown of the questions are. So if you're unsure what to do or how long the exam is, you'll see here the CSWA is 180 minutes and so forth. So ask your lecturers about doing more certifications if you want to do the CSWP or any of the simulation ones. This is a bit of a teaser, the 3D experience. So some of your universities might be moving to this platform in the future. So this is a cloud-based CAD. And some of you might start making use of these in the future. I see someone raise their hand. Pierre, do we have any questions?
If there's no questions, but maybe just the person, if you raise your hand, you can just prompt the question and then I'll just respond on your question.
Yeah, so just tell us what the question is and then we'll try and answer that for you. I think the next section, we're just going to discuss the basics of the user interface. So for this, I'm just going to hand off to Pierre, and then for the final section, I'll just do the sheet metal, how to get started with sheet metal. So let's, Pierre, if you can share your screen and then just show the basics of the interface for the users.
Okay, great. So the important thing is you'll just notice there might be slight differences between my SolidWorks interface and yours. It just depends on all the different add-ins that you currently have on or off. So you'll also notice that just the background screen, yours might show that it's the 2019-2020. It's small differences, but it is still the same interface. Okay, so what has changed in the latest version is that you now have this welcome screen. And this welcome screen, the nice thing about this is everything is included in a specific area. So if you click on the home tab, I'll just show you afterwards. If you click on the home tab, you can actually access this. You can now log in and have credentials. This will just be a direct link then to your customer portal or support or mysolidworks.com. So it's actually quite nice. So if you already have set up your mysolidworks.com account and everything like that, this is now a direct link to open that up. And with this, you'll have your recent documents, your recent folders, and your resources. So if you ever want to go and see what is new, you can just click on the what is new, and it'll actually take you to the help files. So like we mentioned in the previous webinars is we have help files in SolidWorks, we have tutorials, we have mysolidworks.com. There's quite a lot of ways of how you can get information. And the information you'll notice is quite intensive. So you can actually go through, I want to maybe go read up on SolidWorks PDM, or plastics, you can just go in and so forth. It'll give you the specific information. So this will be the theoretical, the theory and everything behind it. And if you go through this learn button, this learn button will then take you to the introduction to SolidWorks tutorials and so on. So what I just wanted to show you is, let me just open a tutorial part. Let's just go in. So I just have a normal part. Just as an example, I just want to show you the user interface. So again, you're in the top, you'll notice that you still have your normal file and edit, just how you can go and save or make drawings from. But you have the same buttons here on your right-hand side. So here's the home button that I spoke about. This will take you directly to get all of the information and the learning buttons and so on. One of the main questions that I always had while I was still in university is like, sometimes I can't see my surfacing tab, or my weldments tab is maybe missing, or anything like that. It can happen that during the installation, certain tabs are actually selected by default. It depends on the settings that you're currently running. If you had an old installation of SolidWorks, it will actually keep some of the information, and some of it might be broken. Some of the links might be broken. But the important thing is that, sorry, I just want to, okay. So first of all, you have this tab setting. So if I just minimize, if I go back to this, so we've got more or less nine important areas of the user interface. So firstly, number one is your the menu bar, where you get all of the stuff like your file and edit. Then you have your toolbars, where your home page is, or a quick save, a rebuild, a file open. We have the commands. And then we start to go into the part environment and all of the information for the specific part. So first you have your feature tree that's here on the left-hand side. That is actually number 8. So your first tab is your entire feature tree. Then if you go over, you have the properties. So number 5, your configurations. You can also go and search, and you have your breadcrumbs. So just going back into SolidWorks. So basically what that just means is, here on the left-hand side is all of the main information on the specific part. So this is the feature tree. You can have properties, you can have configurations, dimension expert if you want to use, for example, geometrical tolerancing and so on, and then as well the appearances tab. But let's just start off at this top. Don't be scared if you see things that you never know, like this toolbar at the top. That is just called a macro toolbar. I'll just go and show you how you can go and add specific things that you maybe want as shortcuts to your toolbar, and stuff that you don't want to have. You can actually go and remove them. So let me just move that to the side, that doesn't take away anything. Okay, so firstly, these command managers, all of them will fall under a specific group. So features, for example, is you can do from a sketch, you can do your extrusions and so on. Nice in 2020 now is that you'll see that there's a preview of what the command actually will do. So if you're not sure, like for example, this extruded boss base, just hover your mouse over it and it'll give you a feedback. So it'll actually explain to you. So like one you don't really use is a swept boss base. It'll actually explain to you, and some of it will actually have a video to explain it. Like this, for example, you can do revolves, you can rotate something around an axis and do it at a certain degree. Okay, but the question that we got was, okay, my surfaces tab is maybe missing. So if I right click on this tabs and I just go down to tabs, you'll see all the different tabs that are available. You have to make sure that that one is ticked to be able to use. So if we look at one like surfaces, if I untick it, it'll just remove it from my tabs. So again, I just right click on it and click on surfaces just to make sure that the surfacing is there. So if any of that is not there, like for example, I right click and surfaces isn't available at all, that means that something maybe went wrong in your installation. So we will just then recommend to uninstall and then reinstall. You can test that by loading your settings again if you want, but sometimes the settings won't make a difference. Okay. Then the one below the tabs is toolbars. So if I want to add specific things to my dock, like I had now with that macro option. So if you look at the right hand top corner, if I click on it, it'll just remove it. So I just want to take those messages away. So again, toolbars, I can click on macro as an example, and then it will actually load the macro one for me. So you can actually go and build your specific view. So if you know you use a specific button quite a lot, you can actually add that button to a certain area. So if you want to add a button, you can click on customize. So here's all the different options that are available. So you'll see, like, for example, now mold tools and MBD and you can actually build your own tabs. So you can go and create a new tab with specific commands that's maybe a frequently used command for you. Go and build your own if you don't like the way the user interface is set up. So I just want to move this over to this side. And with this customize, again, you can add any of your toolbars, or you can go and create shortcut bars. So that's, for example, if you right click on something or you right click and drag, you can have different prompts that comes from the mouse input. But I just want to go to the commands option, and maybe as an example, I use different curves quite a lot. So I maybe use this split line. I can just drag this into my toolbar and it will be there. Okay, so it's as easy as that. So you can go and add, maybe you've deleted one, just want to go and add it. You can just go through this list. You'll see there's quite an extensive list of the different options that are available. Then lastly, add-ins. I just want to move the add-ins over. So all of the university licenses, if you get a student premium license through your lecturer, you have access to electrical simulation, flow simulation, you have routing, all of the products that are available for any commercial customer you have. The only ones you don't have is the PDM professional side, and that is just your data management. So it's not something that you actually want to use yourself. It's more for collaboration in a team in a design office. So always just go and make sure that if you want to use simulation, for example, you can just go and add the simulation tab. So if I click OK, I'll click OK now. I'm just going to browse down. So you'll even see that there's ones like the CAM or Composer, Inspection, Plastics. There's quite a few that are available to you. So I can just click OK. It'll now go and load that simulation add-in. So you'll see it's busy loading in the background. So please remember this, there's a big difference between your simulation and your Simulation Express products. So simulation is a full suite where you can do specific studies, specific mesh controls, and so on. In the Simulation Express, you are limited to certain mesh sizing, certain flow rates, or certain static analysis. So if you get to your final years, you would start to use your full flow simulation and the full simulation suite, and not just your Simulation Express. Okay, so if you have any questions on that, please feel free to ask your lecturer to make sure you have the student premium license, and then also make sure that you have the add-ins selected. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my slideshow. So the next part of this user interface as well is more on the right-hand side. So this will be firstly, your number one is the heads up view toolbar. You have your search command. You can do different searches in SolidWorks as well. Then you have your graphical area and your help flyout. So I just want to browse back. So what we mean with that is you'll see here on the right-hand side of my screen. I just want to zoom in a bit. So on the right hand side, firstly, we have the SolidWorks Resources. So this is where you can go and get information. You can have your design library, or you want to open a specific files. You can have a view palette. So everything is here on the right hand side. But then again, you also have a search command. So you can have this drop down. So you can either go and search in the SolidWorks help, or maybe you're just not sure where a specific button is. You know that you can use fit spline as an example, but you can't find that option. You can actually go and search for that. So if it was available in the applicable scenario that you're currently running, you can then go and click on it. So if I just want to do the fit spline, and then I'm in my sketch environment, I can search and fit spline will now be available. Again, if you hover over it, it'll actually show you the information of that. But there's also a little eye, and this eye will take you to the command location. So if I click it and I leave my SolidWorks, it'll actually show you go to Tools, Spline, Tools, Fit Spline. Okay, so if you ever forget where a specific button is, you can go and search for that button, or search according to, just click on the drop down, the help, or your files, or mysolidworks.com. Okay. So that is the main thing that we just wanted to make sure again that you all know the user interface. Again, if you have any questions, please ask. I'm going to hand over to Eva now. He's just going to do a small demonstration today of what is sheet metal and what we can achieve with sheet metal. And that is just so we are actually going to run through the series. We're going to run through the different tabs that are available in SolidWorks. And today, Eva is just going to show us the sheet metal tab. So.
Okay, thank you, Pierre. So I just want to add another thing. Pierre mentioned the search bar up here, and you can search for SolidWorks help. So really the help functions files are really, really good. So if you don't know what a function is or how to use it, let's say, for example, I want to learn the surface extrude. Just type extrude in there with the option set to help, and you'll get all the relevant options for extrude. Same with the commands. Pierre already showed that, but you can also use that to add buttons. So let's say that fit spline again. I can add that to my sketch toolbar just by dragging it from up there. So if you don't want to continually go to insert, sketch, or tools, sketch tools to find it, you can find everything up there. Now, whenever you start any component, it starts with a sketch, and the same is true for sheet metal. Now, sheet metal has two main ways in which you can design. So one, you do what we call convert sheet metal. So you'll draw your design in a 3D manner with extrudes, revolves, extrude cuts, and so forth, and then you'll convert that to a sheet metal part, or you can start straight from the sheet metal part. So I'm going to start with the 3D way and then show you how to add features onto that with the standard methods of drawing in sheet metal. So I'm just going to start a sketch on the front plane, and you can just right click on the front plane here on the side and select sketch, and it'll create a new sketch. So you don't have to go to the sketch toolbar. Next, I'm just going to add a block here, and I'm going to dimension this 100 by 100. Next, I'll just extrude that another 100 out. And there I have my box. Now I can convert this to a sheet metal part. So if you go to the sheet metal tab, select the convert to sheet metal option. And you select firstly the flat face. So I'm going to select the bottom as the starting face of everything. And then you select the edges you want your bends on. I'm selecting the 4 bottom edges here, and I'm going to set my thickness for my sheet metal to 2. So remember, when you are bending sheet metal, the bend radius, which you set here, can't be less than the thickness. So this defines the inside bend radius of any part, and it's just technically impossible to bend something with a smaller bend radius. You'll have to start making cuts in order to make sharper bends than that. So I'm going to select that option and say OK. So there I have my sheet metal box, and you'll see up here I have a flatten option. So if I select flatten, it flattens out the box. You'll see it made corner reliefs for the corners. If I add this to a drawing, it'll also show where the bend lines are at, what angle the bends need to be. So it's very useful for that. So I'm just going to unflatten that again. I'm going to add a top to this box. So let's select the edge flange tool. We're going to select this edge over here. And I'm just going to drag this out up to this edge. So the end condition was blind here. So similar to your extrude, you have a bunch of different end conditions. I'm going to select the up to vertex option. So I'm going to select that vertex. And so it'll be flush with that part. Just going to extend this slightly so the bend is outside here on the outside of the material and not on the inside like that. And I'm just going to select OK. So you can edit the flange profile here. So if, for instance, I wanted to make this much narrower, I could go ahead and make a much more narrow flange there. And so it's only a portion of that. And you can change that sketch however you want. Next, I'm going to add some welds to the side, and I'm going to show you how the weld symbols and everything also get added to your drawings. So you'll see here, weld, welds, welds. Under the corner option, there's a welded corner option. So you select that. You select the one face and the other face that the welds fit between. So this and this face here. So it is being difficult. Let's increase the size of the weld to 2. And then, okay, let's make it even larger then. Okay, so it's likely not wanting to weld because of the corner condition I have over here. So I'm going to edit my convert solid over here to change what happens here in the corners. So the corners have gaps here. I'm going to remove those gaps and set that they overlap. I'm going to make it so each one has about a 1 more gap between them. And this I'm going to set to 1. So with this feature, it sets how far they overlap. So if I set it to 0.5, it's only going to overlap halfway. You'll see as such. So setting that to 1. Add some welds. So let's select this face and this one over here. It was the other way around. Okay. So my weld is not happy with my end conditions. So let's go and make some further changes. Set this to that 1, 1, 1 more gap. And let's change the sheet metal auto relief. Let's take that off. Now we should have, okay. So clearly my welds are not working. So I might go to my help files and check what are the conditions for adding the welds. So we'll see here, allow you to add a weld bead to the corner of a folded sheet metal part, including miter flanges, edge flanges, and closed corners. Now, what I suspect here is that the area underneath my weld here, this cutaway doesn't allow for a weld to be added. So I will have to remove the cutaway. Let's see. Bend relief is usually the option for this. Okay, I'm just going to skip that and just move on to the rest of it. So again, we have our flattened shape. So if you add this to a drawing, if I say File, Make Drawing from Part, I'm just going to save this on my desktop. Let's select the A3 option. So here on the side, you'll get a few options. So you'll get a dedicated flat pattern option. So even if you go change your part to not be flattened, you'll see this view stays as a flattened view. So if I go and add a few other options, so front, top, side, you'll see they show the folded view of everything. And you'll see here I already have my bend lines and everything added. So I can go ahead and maybe change the scale here, 1 to 2. And I have already now have a drawing showcasing where to bend all of my parts. And I can just add a few more dimensions. So I'm going to select model items over here, select the view, add the dimension option here. And there's a few options here. So depending on what your drawing has, you might go and change that. Let's see, model items, dimensions. Okay. And then you can just go ahead. That will automatically add some dimensions, but other ones you might have to add yourself. I can add dimensions on each edge here. That's just the basics of getting started with sheet metal. I'd suggest you guys really go into the tutorials in SolidWorks. So here on the side, there's specifically a sheet metal forming tool and weldments lesson. So please go through those. And then if you have any additional questions, just send them in the feedback form or ask your lecturers, and then maybe we can have a look at those and answer them for you next week if you can send them to us. Yeah, and that's just the basics of how to start a sheet metal part. A normal part will be similar. Up here, I think, let us open everything up for the questions and then just show the feedback form.
Yes. Yeah, please, you can give us, we will give out the feedback form now as well. Please give us some feedback on what topics you want us to discuss. If there's something that is maybe particular to your industry or particular to your studies, we can view that then on a weekly basis. We can go through. So like this one, for example, was a question from last week, just where all the different toolbars are, where all the different add-ins are, and then we working through the different steps. So you can just scan this QR code, or you can go just to tiny.cc/MECAD, and you'll be able to fill in the form there. And then again, just stay connected with us. Please go and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We are on all of the platforms. If you have any questions with regards to SolidWorks, please feel free to contact us.
Yeah, and if I know it sounds lame us saying go follow us on YouTube, but there's a lot of YouTube videos we're making, just the basics of how to get started, how to do certain features that you might not find in a tutorial or a book, or just tips to make yourself a better SolidWorks user. So just go and have a look at them. I'm sure you'll learn a lot from just a few of them, and they're usually 2 to 3 minutes, so they're very short. And so you just watch one a day or however you want. So I'm just going to wait for some questions to come in.
Yeah, so we'll just leave the chat open until 1:45. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask, feel free to ask. We will send out this recording to your lecturers as well.
Let's just see here.
Okay, so Irfan, Nathan is just saying that the URL is not working. I'm just going to test that on my side as well again.
And just check.
Yeah, it's actually saying that it's currently closed. So just
okay, let me just feedback form. Let me just open that up, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, I try now, guys. It should be available to you now.
Want to refresh? I'll just refresh on my side again. So just saying currently not accepting responses. So if I may just check.
Try again. Let's see, accepting responses. Let's turn that off. Try. Yeah, everything should work now.
Yes, perfect. It's up and running.
Okay. So someone's asking, making videos about complex projects like making computer cases or cars that actually have functioning electronics. What do you mean by functioning electronic components? Do you want to simulate the components in SolidWorks, meaning the circuitry and so forth, or do you just want to do, let's say, a thermal simulation, or what? So if you want to do actual circuitry simulation, you're going to use something like KeyCAD or some other CAD, ECAD type product for that. SolidWorks doesn't include so you do get SircuitWorks, but SircuitWorks is just a way to add circuit boards and their components into your 3D models. So they won't be functional. They'll just be for fitment and maybe for thermal testing. So you can do thermal simulation and everything of those components. If you want to do the actual circuitry testing, you will have to use something like KeyCAD or another ECAD.
Yeah, like Octave or something like that. So just to add to what Irfan is also saying, so with our flow simulation package, you can go and say, okay, you have a pod and you have a voltage. Just check what is the heat distribution through the pod and so on. But there's not a way in SolidWorks how you can have a switch and a light will shine. So you can go and draw the schematic of that, but you can't actually go and read the fluxes or the voltages and the stuff like that. So maybe if you want to elaborate further, if you want, we can just show. So we can do the schematics and also then the 3D of that schematic. So if you have an electronical box, we can do root harnessing and wiring in SolidWorks Electrical.
Yeah, so you mentioned the car there. So yeah, SolidWorks Electrical, you'll basically have a schematic, electrical diagram of all the wiring and everything. And then in the 3D side, it'll automatically make changes to the wire harness, to how the wires are routed, depending on changes you make in the schematic side. So you have that functionality, but actual simulation of electronics is generally only restricted to specific electronic applications. So I'm not aware of any software that links the two completely 100%. Any other questions? Let's see, I think we have some responses. So there's some questions for simulations. Okay, so we'll show some simulation examples next week. Obviously, simulation is very broad. It's very difficult to have a webinar about simulation. I can literally spend weeks just on basic static simulation, never mind doing full linear, non-linear, frequency, dynamic simulations, or things like rigid body motion. But we'll do a basic overview, and then we'll just show where you can get some of the resources for that. All of you should have access to the customer portal. So let me just share my screen so you guys can see that. Okay, so I'm just going to fill everything out here. So on your customer portal, you can actually get a manual that walks you through the basics of SolidWorks, but it also has sections on the simulation side. So on your customer portal, it should look something similar to this. Here at the bottom, there is a education only fundamentals of 3D CAM and Sim. So if you open that up, that's a PDF document that walks you through how to get started with various things like simulation. And let's open up the topics. I think I'm here in the front. Okay. Okay, so you start with just sketching, modeling, patterning, but you do eventually get into the analysis process. So it'll walk you through how to set up a simulation, talking about studies. A big thing about simulation that a lot of people don't understand is it's not just about setting it up. It's very easy to set up a simulation. The difficult part is the validation. You gave it a material property. How do you know that material property is correct? You gave it a mesh. How do you know that's the best mesh for that model? How do you know there's not stress concentrations due to the mesh you have? How do you know your fixtures are realistic? Are they not causing stress concentrations or stress reductions, etc.? I'll see if I can get you guys anything on the validation side, but maybe that's something we can discuss later. Yeah, so I'd say have a look at this as a start for simulation, and then next week we'll just show the basics of simulation, and we'll try and see if we can get some resources for the more advanced features for you guys. Okay. I think I actually didn't share my screen. So again, sorry, customer portal. So go to your customer portal. You'll see here under the downloads option, there's a fundamentals of 3D CAD and Sim. Just click on that and it will open up a PDF for you. And this basically tells you how to get started with SolidWorks and simulation and everything. Yeah, okay. Let's switch back to that.
Yeah, Ivan, I've taken the other question from the one student, so we'll just email them privately afterwards. So if you have any other questions, you can just add it here. Otherwise, I think let's finish up for today.
So guys are asking for beginner webinars. I would really recommend do the tutorials. We can't show you the basics of getting started with SolidWorks better than the tutorials or the My SolidWorks tutorials will. Those really are the best way to get started. If you have questions after doing those, then come and talk to us and then we'll see. But yeah, thank you guys. We'll keep it open for a few more minutes if you guys have any questions. And then, yeah.
Just give it one minute. I just want to quickly check something here, Ivan, before we end this meeting.
So on social media, let me just advance the slides here. So our website, mecad.co.za. Our YouTube is, so we'll share these slides so they will have links in them. And we'll also put the links in the emails we send your lecturers. But for just search MECAD YouTube, or you can just go to our website and you should see a link to the MECAD YouTube channel there as well. So here on our YouTube channel, let me just move this over. So the first result when I search MECAD YouTube is this MECAD Systems, and this is our website, our YouTube channel. And you'll see we have a bunch of different playlists, especially these MECAD minutes are quite useful for just some quick tips regarding SolidWorks. And we're also me and Pierre on LinkedIn. So you can also search for MECAD or me and Pierre on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, thanks. I think let's finish off with that. We will send the information again to everyone next week, at the beginning of next week, of what our topic is going to be. And we'll send all of that information through to your lecturer. So please stay in contact. If you have the questions, ask your lecturer. The lecturer will also be in contact with us. And with this, we're going to make sure that everyone actually knows how to use SolidWorks and what they can achieve through SolidWorks. Okay. Let's finish.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.
Cheers, guys.